What's going on, Blackish University? It's Brandon B with another video for you guys. I wanted to create a video about something that goes on all the time in our neighborhoods. We know the police can sometimes disproportionately police people of color, and you might have got a drug charge. It could be a variety of crimes. The most common are probably cannabis trafficking, possession of cocaine, delivery of a controlled substance, criminal drug conspiracy, distribution of drugs, right? And you might be working with a public defender and you're just trying to get some information about what you can do. It's very hard to just ask someone, especially a lawyer, like, hey, hypothetically speaking, how can we get these drug charges dismissed, right? It might seem disingenuous. So there's tips and tricks that a lot of people in a lot of places go over with their own people, family, and friends. So I want to go over them with you. And, defending a possession charge or a possession of a controlled substance, it's not impossible, but you kind of have to take advantage of overworked public employees, almost like I don't know if you guys are familiar with improving your credit, right? A lot of people know that you can dispute things on your credit, and if that company doesn't report back and prove the validity of that charge of that money owed, you can technically get stuff removed from your credit report. It's a rather quick way to help boost up your credit file. But a lot of people don't realize it's not that American Express or Discover is not going to respond back. It's sometimes there can be some confusion, especially if you're disputing things multiple times. They might think they've handled something, and they might not send back the information needed, and you can easily get something removed, even if it's a completely legitimate debt. I can definitely do a video on that to go over, and I'm sure I will. But right now, we want to focus on how do drug charges get dismissed. Well, one thing that you can do is, drug charges are sometimes a low priority for prosecutors. So you can create multiple dispositions. You can request documents. You can do what they call procedural paperwork, which can wear down the prosecutor. A lot of times, especially if it's someone who's, let's say, a state's attorney, they're not benefiting from extra time that they're devoting to a case. So they might be more likely to drop the charges against you or offer a lesser sentence or possibly come up with a plea agreement as an incentive to close the deal. Almost like if you're working with an attorney and you're not paying him on time, he's going to try to close the deal. He's going to be trying to make moves because he knows that, let's get this wrapped up. So again, these are some of the things that you can do. And again, you definitely want to consult your attorney, but this is more for someone who's just got a charge and they're trying to see, man, what direction can I go with this? If you don't have the money to, let's be real, get a qualified, competent attorney. Now, one of the best ways to fight drug charges is to go against the unlawful search itself. And I say unlawful, but that can be defined in different ways. So what you do is you're technically challenging the way the evidence was obtained. So first you'll need to prove that the police officer, let's say, didn't have probable cause to stop you. And then further, you must prove that even if the traffic stop was legal, the subsequent search that led to the discovery of the drugs was illegal, especially if the law enforcement officer lacked probable cause to search you or had a valid search warrant. So typically, this is where a drug case will have the most weakness, right? Why did they pull you over? Did they say you didn't have on your turn signal, you were going too fast? And that's why we always say when you get pulled over, you need to invoke your right to remain silent. And it's not because you did the crime or didn't, or they're asking something in a nice way. you need time to come up with a defense. And let's be real, you need some time to take a step back, understand the information they have, what you're being charged with, and how you can best approach fighting that. So that's why it's very important when you get pulled over, never consent to a search, never consent to a breathalyzer. Just take whatever charge they're going to give you and then have your day to fight that in court, because there's multiple approaches in different situations, different scenarios you can use to fight this in court. Now, often you'll get police officers that ask in a way that implies that you don't have a choice. But as we mentioned in our previous videos, you do have a choice. It's very important that you say, "Sir, I do not consent to you searching my vehicle." No matter how they ask, whether or not they say they're getting a drug dog, or however they, well, if you do this the easy way or the hard way, never just say, "You know what, fine. If you're gonna search the car, just do it so I can get on my way." That's consenting to the search. It's very important that you hold your ground. Now, allowing a police officer to search you or your vehicle will allow whatever they find to be admitted lawfully as evidence against you. Now, that's very important, because when you say, "No, I do not consent to a search," you have a way to fight that in court, and that anything they found after that can be dismissed. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's very important. I know you think you can get out of it, you could talk, but no, you have to look at this as calculated risk. You got to be quiet and take what's dealt then, and then consult an attorney or approach this the best way you can and possibly get out of the charge. Now, if there's any way to say no to the search without being arrested for resisting arrest or obstruction, then do so. Remember, it's your constitutional right. If the law enforcement officer still searches and he doesn't have a warrant and he doesn't have probable cause, after you've clearly said no, then the evidence that he or she will gather, there's a high likelihood that it won't be valid in court. So again, you have to trust the law on this. So that's very important. Always remember, don't say anything, and always say no when they're trying to search the vehicle. The other way, one thing that you can use that's very common, a little bit too common, is they need to prove the drugs were yours. So a lot of times this is what's missing in the case. There's something called constructive possession. What that is this is where something is in your possession because of the circumstance, even though it might not be yours. So let's say if you borrowed a friend's truck while your car was in the shop, you got pulled over for speeding, and when the officer is searching the vehicle, they find cocaine in the trunk. Well, whose cocaine is it, right? Is it the owner of the car? Or is it yours because you were in possession of the car? It creates doubt on the proof of possession and the reasonable doubt that goes along with that. So it's something that you can exploit to your advantage. And again, I'm not telling you how to get away with this, but I'm telling you these are different things that you can approach as you are fighting a drug charge. Now, another weakness that a lot of these drug tests might have is there's a chemical test involved, or there's some sort of test. There was either a sobriety test, they did a weed test, cannabis test. Now, these tests aren't 100% accurate, but there's ways, if you have a history of a disability, a leg injury, some sort of impairment, there's a lot of things that you can do. So again, it's very important to invoke your right to remain silent, and then make sure that you're going to fight this to the best of your ability. One thing that I would also want to mention is anytime that you're let's say they found a substance, you want to make sure that you're sending that substance out to be tested. These tests can be rather expensive, especially in smaller jurisdictions, they might not want to go to a trial. They won't say that, but it's something you can do as you're requesting documentation, doing things to see what your options are with this case. You might want to test that the actual whatever it was that they found. Again, you're looking for an option here. It could be that they got a bad sample. It could have been that they picked something up for a sample that wasn't XYZ. So again, you're just trying to give yourself an out here. So that's really the best that I want to go over at this point. But when you're asking about a possession charge, remember that there are severe criminal penalties that could result in jail time. So in Illinois, drug laws are very strict. So you definitely want to talk to an attorney, but keep in mind that the amount of drugs, as you increase the amount of drugs, so does the severity of the jail sentence or the time. So a lot of times there could be plea bargains you might want to look for that can reduce the actual crime. There's different types of plea bargains. I know you guys can't see it, but I actually have it written here on my board. There's something where they can actually reduce the charge. So you agree to settle on a lesser charge that might be better for your long-term jail record. They can either reduce a sentence in favor of settling, plea bargaining, or they could be, they have what's called an implicit plea. But normally you want to make sure that with the that you're working on something or negotiating something that would be either a lesser charge or no jail time. But sometimes there's actually orders. There's ranges for the crime depending on the type of drugs that you had and the quantity involved. But for the plea bargain, sometimes you might want to settle for a lesser charge because it might be a misdemeanor versus a felony, or exclude you for something that you might have a need or interest in the future. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions at all, or you are facing a drug crime, I'll put your notes down below, or feel free to check out our website, blackishuniversity.com, to get some free information. I'll try to help out as best I can, but good luck.